All right guys, so on today's video, we're gonna go through my pack and see what I carry with me on a typical day hunt for elk in the Rocky Mountains. All right, so we're gonna go through everything that I typically have with me. Now, I tend to be kind of a minimalist, so I don't really carry a lot of stuff. Of course, I've got my bow and arrows. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on that. We'll go ahead and look at what I've got on my person. Now, of course, I'm not wearing blue jeans when I'm out elk hunting, but just pretend I'm in camo. So first thing is I have my binoculars with me. I've always got a lens cloth. Inside this binocular case, I've got a compass. And this Bino Case is the Bino Bro from Oregon Pack Works. Very nice little Bino case. Inside that, I've got my Vortex Razors. Now, the glass that I carry, this is pretty high-end glass. And, you know, I've heard it time and time again, and I would concur with it, that spend as much as you can. If you're gonna be hunting in the West, spend as much as you can on your glass, because this stuff is going to be a constant companion to you. I hunt a lot of open country, and then I also hunt a lot of really tight, close country, and I use these extensively in both. Obviously in the open country for seeing, spotting elk long ways away, but when you're in tight country in the timber, I use these things for looking through the vegetation and finding elk that I would never see with my naked eye, just because you can't really focus through vegetation like you can with these things. I use those almost hourly when I'm out on an elk hunt. Always have a lighter, of course my elk calls, all my tags. All right, so that's pretty much except for my boots. Now, I want to show you one thing about my boots. I went ahead and replaced my boot laces with paracord. Now, I've covered the survival stuff that I carry. I've covered in another video that I did for backcountry hunters and anglers on their backcountry college series. Goes through all the survival stuff that I carry with me. The boot laces, I'll just make quick mention of them. Paracord is, I love paracord. I've got paracord in my pack. I've got it on my boots. And each one of these boot laces is probably 6 feet. So I've got an extra 12 feet of paracord. Now, if you replace your boot laces with paracord, at first they're gonna be very hard to keep tied, because paracord's kind of a slick material, just doesn't like to stay tied. But after you break them in, they're just like any other boot lace, except they will last forever. You will not wear them out. All right, moving on to the bag. So this is a new pack for me. This is gonna be my first season with this. This is a SeekOutside Goshawk model, I believe, but I've had it out with some weight in it. I'm really liking it so far. It's a lightweight pack, very good construction. But one of the great things about this thing is these little gatekeeper buckles. You just pop them open, take them off like that. They're easy as pie. And I'll just go ahead and start from the outside and work my way in. So, trekking poles. I hunt a lot of steep, rocky, big country. Now, I've hunted a lot of years and never carried trekking poles until I did. And once I experienced hiking with heavy loads with trekking poles, I never went back, and I promise you, if you try it, you'll be amazed. I mean, when you're hiking with just your legs, you have all this upper body strength that's completely not being utilized. But when you have trekking poles along with you, the stability that it adds, the ability to use your upper body strength to go up and down hills, I promise you, you will not go back to not having trekking poles after you use them. Plus, I do have another one that I've tapped and put a 1/4 inch bolt in the top, and I use it for a monopod for my camera. And then also, you can attach a GoPro to it. I do a lot of filming, and so you can attach a GoPro to these things, use them as a selfie stick, or use it to stick GoPro down underwater or whatever. All right, my bugle. This is simply a wiffle ball bat that I cut the ends off of. And I went ahead and took some of that non-stick, like really soft tape that kind of sticks to itself, and wrapped around there just to kind of quiet it down a little bit, because this thing is pretty loud when you bang it up against brush or rake it on brush or something like that. It kind of makes a pretty unnatural sound. This stuff helps to kind of dampen that down a little bit. And then the other thing, I'm into dual purpose. Like if I can carry one thing to accomplish multiple goals, I'm gonna go that route. And one of the reasons that I went with this stretch self-stick tape, I don't even know what it's called. You can get it sold as vet wrap for horses and things like that. But anyway, if I happen to twist a knee or an ankle or something like that, this is basically that sports wrap. And so you can take it off of this, wrap up your knee, wrap up your ankle, you know, whatever. Use it for as part of your first aid kit. All right, moving on. Headlamp, very important. If you've ever tried to skin and quarter an elk in the dark, you will never forget your headlamp again. I know from experience. This is the little Petzl Actic Core. It's a rechargeable light. I've had it for a couple of years. It's lasted. The battery life on it is pretty doggone good, and it doesn't weigh much. So just to mention, all loaded together, all this stuff, except for the binoculars, the bow, and things like that, but everything that was in the pack, plus the pack itself, is about 10 pounds. So I'm pretty lightweight in what I'm carrying with me. Now, where I hunt, we're pretty high elevation, and the temperature can range from, you know, it could be single digits in the morning and it could be 60 degrees by the afternoon. And so I'm constantly adding and taking off layers. So I usually wear a merino base layer, and then I'll have, you know, whatever I need over that. Sometimes I usually carry a wool, like a pretty thick, heavy wool shirt like this. And then sometimes if it's really cold, I'll have a puffy layer, and all that stuff goes in and out of this bag constantly. Inside the bag, I've got my bot. This is by Vargo Outdoors. It's got a little rubber O-ring up here so you can seal it down tight. It's waterproof. The thing I really like about this is it's big enough you can cook a full meal, like a mountain house or something like that. Just build a fire, throw this thing in there, and just cook a whole meal in it. You can carry water in it. But this is the titanium version. They're not cheap, but you know, quality gear isn't cheap, and this thing will last you a lifetime as long as you don't lose it. So I'll go through this last. This is a little water filter by MSR. This is their Hyperflow water filter. I've used a couple of different water filters, and this thing is pretty fast. It's got a good little pumping mechanism, and it's lightweight. This is a good water filter. Of course, got my game bags. I always am gonna be carrying game bags. Unless, you know, perhaps I might leave them at the house if we've got a bunch of snow cover and it's gonna be cold and I don't have to worry about things getting, flies getting on it and things getting dirty. But game bags are 90% of the time gonna be in my pack. And I think that's everything in the bag. Now, this is my little emergency kit. This thing hardly ever gets opened. Again, I've covered this in another video, but I'll just go through it real quickly here. I've got about 50 feet of paracord, and this paracord is like the good high quality paracord. It's got like 9 other nylon cords inside of it, so you could pull the inner cores out, use those for all sorts of different uses, and then of course you still have the shell left. I've got a whistle. I've got a ferrocerium rod for starting fires, in addition to the lighter that I always carry in my pocket. I've got athletic tape for taping up your heels or any other hot spots that you might be getting on your feet. Tape up those hot spots early and you won't have a problem, but you let them go too far and it can ruin a hunt. I've got a little photon light. This thing is amazing. I've had this in my pack for 5 or 6 years, have never changed the battery, and it's still as bright as the day that I bought it. I don't use it a whole lot, but it's really bright, and I've actually used it. I've left my headlamp at the camp before and have used this to navigate through the woods when it's pitch black on a new moon. And the last thing that I have in here is a big industrial size garbage bag. This thing's like 60 something inches long. You can make a survival shelter out of this if you need to. But again, this is for the very rare, hopefully never happen situation where you're stuck out in the woods and it's you know, sleeting and you're getting threatened with hypothermia, things like that. So the only other thing that I have on me is a good sharp knife. This knife is made by Chris Reed in the UK. It's got a real heavy spine. I mean, you could take this thing, lay it on a log and just beat it with a stick, split firewood. You could break an elk down with this knife. And that's one other thing I want to mention is you don't need an extensive toolkit to break down an elk or a moose or anything. I mean, you can do it all with a small knife. I've broken out an entire elk, all the quarters, everything, with just a little pocket knife with a 3-inch blade. So you don't need the saws and the hatchets and all that junk that just weighs you down. If you know how to use it, know how to go around those joints and break everything down, you can do it with a very, very simple kit, as long as you got a sharp knife. All right, so a couple of just last items that I want to make quick mention of that you might want to carry with you depending on conditions. And the first one is Gators. If you're hunting in deep snow or wet brush, walking through wet brush, having Gators on your boots and your lower legs is huge. It'll keep water from draining down into your boots, keep your boots from getting wet, keep snow from going up your pants if you happen to be in deep snow. But these things are worth their weight in gold if you're in the right conditions. The next thing I want to mention is I always have a topo map with me. And there's a couple of companies that are making topo maps for hiking and hunting. And I don't know what this stuff is that they're printed on, but it's almost like plastic. It's waterproof, very, very durable maps. We got these online from a website called My Topo. You just get on there, you delineate the scale and the area you want to have a map printed off of. They print them and send them to you. And the last thing that I want to make mention of is rain gear. I very, very, very rarely will carry rain gear. And if I do carry rain gear, I'm carrying a PVC, this is a Helly Hansen Impertech or workwear or something like that, like serious rain gear. I have used the waterproof, breathable rain gear from multiple companies that's supposed to be the best stuff on the market. Unfortunately, I have never found it to be worth carrying. I mean, if you're in wet enough conditions that require rain gear, it just doesn't work, as much as I hate to say it. You know, something like this heavy, I mean, it's a lot heavier than that lightweight, you know, breathable stuff, but it actually keeps you dry. Now, this is kind of loud. It's not something that you're gonna be actively bow hunting in. You know, I'll use that during rifle season sometimes and actually wear it while I'm hunting. You know, but if it's really threatening rain, or if I'm traveling somewhere and the brush is wet, you know, if you're busting through wet brush, you will be soaking wet before too long, and having something like that on you just when you're moving through and then take it off once you get to your hunting area and actually start hunting, that stuff is a lifesaver. But if anybody knows of a good waterproof, breathable rain gear, please let me know, because I have searched for it and I have never found it. All right guys, so that's it for this video. Elk season is just around the corner. I'm probably gonna do another elk hunting video series like I did last year, so if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. Leave a comment if you've got other things that you feel are necessities for day hunting. Go ahead and leave them in there and let us know what you think, because sometimes, you know, different people hunt different ways, different areas have different ideas. This is just what I like and what I carry with me. So I'm sure that you guys out there have different ideas on it. I'd love to hear about them. So with that, we'll see you next time.